The grand piano stood majestically in the center of Westfield Concert Hall, its polished surface gleaming under the soft lights. Morning sunlight filtered through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the empty seats. In this peaceful moment before the day began, only one person moved through the space, a cleaning lady in her early 60s, quietly dusting the rows of red velvet chairs. Anna had been cleaning at Westfield for over 15 years. She knew every corner of the building, from the basement practice rooms to the highest balcony seats. She took pride in her work, making sure the historic venue sparkled before performers and audiences arrived. Her routine rarely changed. Arrive before dawn, start with the lobby, then move to the main hall, working methodically until everything shone. This morning was no different. Anna hummed softly to herself as she worked, a habit she'd developed over the years. The melodies that filled her head were usually classical, pieces she'd heard during performances, fragments of Beethoven or Mozart that had stayed with her long after the concerts ended. As she approached the stage with her cleaning cart, she noticed someone had arrived early. A man sat at the grand piano, his fingers flying across the keys as he practiced. Anna recognized him immediately. Peter Collins, one of the most celebrated pianists performing with the City Orchestra this season. His upcoming solo concert had been advertised on posters throughout the building for weeks. Anna tried to make herself invisible, as she always did when musicians were practicing. She moved quietly along the edge of the hall, dusting seats in the far corner where she wouldn't disturb him. The music filled the space, a complex piece that required incredible skill, the kind that made audiences hold their breath in wonder. She paused occasionally, cloth in hand, to listen to particularly beautiful passages. After nearly an hour, Peter stopped playing. He stretched his arms above his head and rolled his shoulders, then noticed Anna for the first time. "Good morning," he called out with a friendly wave. "I didn't realize anyone else was here." Anna nodded politely. "I try to stay out of the way when people are practicing. Please don't mind me." Peter stood up from the piano bench and walked to the edge of the stage. He was younger than Anna had thought, perhaps in his mid-30s, with kind eyes and a warm smile that put her at ease. "You've been listening to me play for quite a while. What did you think?" he asked. The question caught Anna by surprise. Musicians rarely asked for her opinion. "It was beautiful," she said honestly. "The Chopin piece especially." Peter's eyebrows rose slightly. "You know Chopin?" Anna felt her cheeks grow warm. "I recognize some pieces from working here so long. You hear things over and over, you start to learn them." The pianist nodded, seeming impressed. Some of the orchestra members had begun to arrive, unpacking their instruments in the pit below the stage. Anna turned back to her cleaning cart, hoping to finish her work before more people arrived. "Have you ever played?" Peter asked, gesturing toward the piano. Anna shook her head quickly. No, I just clean here." Peter's smile widened. "Would you like to try?" "Just for fun?" A few of the orchestra members looked up, curious about the conversation. Anna felt suddenly self-conscious with all these professional musicians watching. She clutched her cleaning cloth tightly. "I wouldn't know how," she said softly. "Everyone starts somewhere," Peter said, motioning for her to join him on stage. "Come on, just press a few keys. It won't bite." Anna hesitated, looking around the hall. More musicians had arrived and were watching the exchange with mild interest. The conductor, a serious-looking woman with glasses, had just walked in carrying a stack of sheet music. Anna had cleaned around these people for years without ever exchanging more than a polite good morning. Now they were all looking at her. "I really should finish my work," she said, turning back to her cart. "We have plenty of time before rehearsal starts," Peter insisted. "Just 1 minute at the piano. Then I promise I'll let you get back to work." There was something about his kind expression that made it hard to refuse. With a deep breath, Anna set down her cleaning supplies and walked slowly toward the stage steps. Her heart pounded in her chest. This wasn't part of her routine. This wasn't what she did here. The conductor raised an eyebrow but said nothing as Anna carefully climbed the steps to the stage. Peter gestured to the piano bench with a theatrical flourish that made a few orchestra members chuckle. "Your instrument awaits." "Madam," he said with a playful bow. Anna approached the piano cautiously, as if it might disappear if she moved too quickly. She dusted this very piano hundreds of times but had never touched the keys. Never imagined she would. Peter guided her to sit on the bench and she perched nervously on the edge. "Just press a few keys," he encouraged. Feel how they respond to your touch. Anna looked down at the gleaming white and black keys. With one trembling finger, she pressed a single white key in the middle of the keyboard. The clear, pure note rang out through the hall, and she smiled despite her nervousness. "That's middle C," Peter explained. "Now try a few more. Whatever feels right." Anna pressed another key, then another. Random notes without rhythm or pattern. She was acutely aware of the growing audience as more orchestra members arrived for their morning rehearsal. Some were watching with amusement, others with impatience, clearly wondering why the cleaning lady was sitting at the valuable concert grand. "I should go," Anna whispered, starting to stand. "Wait," Peter said gently. "Try this." He positioned her right hand over 5 white keys. "Just press these keys one after another like you're counting on your fingers." Anna did as he suggested, playing a simple 5-note scale. The notes flowed together in a way that sounded intentional, musical. "Perfect. Now try with your left hand here," Peter said, positioning her other hand. Anna hesitated, then looked up at Peter's encouraging face. Something shifted in her expression then, a subtle change most wouldn't notice. She straightened her posture slightly, adjusted her position on the bench, and placed both hands on the keyboard with newfound confidence, and then, without warning or hesitation, Anna began to play. Not random notes or a simple scale, but the opening measures of Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major, the very piece Peter had been practicing earlier. Her fingers moved across the keys with precise grace, drawing sounds from the instrument that silenced every conversation in the hall. Peter stepped back, his mouth falling open in shock. The conductor froze, sheet music clutched to her chest. Orchestra members stopped unpacking, turning to stare at the source of this unexpected music. Anna played with closed eyes, her body swaying gently with the melody. Her technique was flawless, but it was the emotion in her playing that captivated everyone. The way she caressed each phrase, building the music with a sensitivity that spoke of profound understanding. The piece flowed from her fingers as naturally as breathing. When she reached the end of the first section, she opened her eyes to find the entire orchestra and several stagehands watching in stunned silence. The music stopped abruptly. Anna's hands flew from the keys as if they'd suddenly become hot. Her face flushed deep red as she realized what she'd done. Without a word, she stood quickly from the bench, nearly stumbling in her haste to leave the stage. "Wait," Peter called, reaching for her arm. How did you—" But Anna was already hurrying down the steps, her eyes fixed on her cleaning cart. She grabbed the handle and began pushing it quickly toward the exit, desperate to escape the stares and the questions she could see forming on everyone's lips. "Please," Peter called after her, jogging to catch up. "Where did you learn to play like that?" Anna paused at the door, one hand on the handle. The entire hall waited for her answer. Dozens of professional musicians completely focused on the woman they'd barely noticed before today. "A long time ago," she said quietly. "In another life." Then she pushed through the door and was gone, leaving behind a room full of confused and amazed musicians, and one pianist who was determined to learn more about the cleaning lady with the extraordinary gift. Anna didn't return to the concert hall that day. After hurrying through the backstage door, she quickly gathered her things from the small employee locker room and called her supervisor, claiming she felt unwell. It wasn't entirely a lie. Her hands trembled and her heart raced as if she'd run a marathon. The feeling of piano keys beneath her fingers after so many years had unlocked something inside her, something she had carefully kept buried for decades. Back in her small apartment across town, Anna sat by the window staring at her hands. Hands that had spent 15 years cleaning floors, wiping surfaces, and pushing vacuum cleaners. Hands that had once been destined for concert halls, not to clean them but to fill them with music. Foolish old woman, she whispered to herself in her native language. What were you thinking? Sleep didn't come easily that night. Anna tossed and turned, haunted by memories of a different life, of conservatory practice rooms in Bucharest, of stern-faced teachers and the smell of rosin and wood polish, of dreams abandoned out of necessity, not choice. Morning arrived with the harsh buzz of her alarm clock. Anna considered calling in sick again, but quickly dismissed the idea. She needed the job. More importantly, she needed her routine, the predictable rhythm of her days that kept unwanted thoughts at bay. She would go in, do her work, and pretend nothing had happened. But as Anna approached the concert hall's staff entrance, her steps slowed. What if they all stared at her? What if they asked questions she wouldn't answer? Perhaps she should request a different assignment, another building in the arts complex. Anna. She froze at the sound of her name. Peter was waiting by the door, 2 paper cups of coffee in his hands. He looked as if he'd been standing there for some time. I was hoping to catch you, he said, extending one of the cups toward her. I thought you might like some coffee. Anna hesitated before accepting the cup. Thank you, she said quietly, eyes fixed on the ground. But I should start work. Of course, Peter nodded. I just wanted to apologize if I embarrassed you yesterday. That wasn't my intention. Anna glanced up at him briefly. It's fine. It was nothing. Nothing. Peter's eyebrows shot up. Anna, what you did was extraordinary. You played Chopin perfectly without sheet music. That's not nothing. She took a small sip of coffee, buying time to steady her voice. It was a long time ago. It doesn't matter now. Of course it matters, Peter insisted. Talent like yours always matters. Where did you study? Why didn't you continue? The questions hit like tiny darts, each one finding a tender spot. Anna shook her head. Please, I need to work. Something in her voice must have reached him because Peter stepped back, raising his hands in surrender. Okay, I understand. But the orchestra director wants to speak with you. When you're ready. Anna felt a chill run through her. The director? Why? Because he heard about what happened from half the orchestra, Peter said with a gentle smile. News travels fast in this building. Don't worry, it's nothing bad. Before Anna could respond, the staff door opened and 2 young musicians walked out, deep in conversation. They paused when they saw Anna, their eyes lighting with recognition. Good morning, one of them said with unusual warmth. Anna nodded stiffly and used the opportunity to slip past Peter into the building. Thank you for the coffee, she said over her shoulder, already hurrying down the hallway toward the supply closet. The morning passed in a haze of awkward encounters. People who had never spoken to her before now smiled and waved. Some even attempted conversation as she cleaned around them. The sudden attention made Anna's skin prickle with discomfort. She kept her responses short and her head down, focusing on her tasks with rigid determination. By mid-afternoon, Anna had managed to avoid most of the musicians by changing her usual cleaning route. She was wiping down mirrors in a rarely used rehearsal room when the door opened behind her. There you are, said a deep voice with a hint of an accent. I've been looking all over for you. Anna turned to find Robert Chen, the orchestra's artistic director, watching her with curious eyes. Tall and imposing with silver-streaked hair, he had the commanding presence of someone used to being in charge. Sir, Anna acknowledged with a small nod, clutching her cleaning cloth like a shield. Please, call me Robert, he said, closing the door behind him. May we talk for a moment? Anna glanced longingly at the second door across the room, calculating her chances of politely escaping. Finding none, she nodded reluctantly. Peter tells me you're quite the pianist, Robert said, getting straight to the point. He said you played Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat with professional-level skill. Is that true? Anna swallowed hard. I used to play a long time ago. It was nothing special. That's not what I heard, Robert replied, studying her face. May I ask where you studied? The question hung in the air between them. Anna considered lying, saying she was self-taught, but something about the director's straightforward manner made her answer honestly. Bucharest Conservatory of Music, she said quietly. For 3 years. Robert's eyebrows rose. A prestigious school. Did you graduate? No. The word came out sharper than Anna intended. She softened her tone. No, I had to stop. May I ask why? Anna turned away, pretending to wipe a spot on the already clean mirror. Family reasons. It's not important now. Robert was quiet for a moment, watching her reflection. We have a situation, he finally said. Our community outreach concert is next week. It's a special program where we highlight local talents alongside our professional musicians. Anna continued cleaning, unsure where this was heading. One of our featured pianists has broken her wrist. We need a replacement. Anna's hand froze mid-wipe. I don't understand. I think you do, Robert said gently. We would like you to consider performing. Anna turned around so quickly she nearly knocked over her bucket of cleaning supplies. That's impossible. I haven't played in 30 years. And yet yesterday, without warming up, you played Chopin perfectly, Robert countered. Your technique is still there. Your musicality is still there. I clean floors now, Anna said, gesturing to her uniform. I'm not a performer. You can be both, Robert said simply. The absurdity of the situation suddenly struck Anna, and a bitter laugh escaped her. You want me to go from cleaning the concert hall to performing in it? People would think it's a joke. Or they might find it inspiring, Robert suggested, a reminder that talent exists everywhere, often hidden in plain sight. Anna shook her head firmly. No, I appreciate the offer, but no. Robert seemed unsurprised by her refusal. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small card. This is my personal number. The concert is next Saturday evening. If you change your mind, call me anytime before Friday. When Anna didn't take the card, he placed it on a nearby table. The piece is Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major. The one you already know. I won't change my mind, Anna said firmly. That's your choice, Robert replied, heading toward the door. He paused with his hand on the handle. But Anna, ask yourself this. When you played yesterday, how did it feel? The question lingered long after he left. How had it felt? Like waking up. Like breathing properly for the first time in decades. Like finding a missing piece of herself she hadn't allowed herself to look for. That evening, Anna sat in her apartment staring at Robert's card on her kitchen table. The thought of performing in public made her stomach twist with anxiety. She was a cleaning lady now, not a concert pianist. What would people think? They would stare, they would judge. They would whisper about the cleaning woman pretending to be an artist. Yet something else nagged at her. A quiet voice asking if she owed it to her younger self to at least consider it. The girl who had practiced 8 hours a day, who had dreamed of playing on grand stages, who had given up everything not by choice but by circumstance. With trembling fingers, Anna opened the drawer of her bedside table and pulled out an old creased photograph. A young woman in a simple black dress stood beside a piano, her face bright with possibility and determination. Anna traced the outline of her younger self, remembering the feeling of absolute certainty that music was her future. What would you think of me now? She whispered to the faded image. She knew the answer. The young woman in the photo would be heartbroken to see how completely Anna had buried her gift. How she had convinced herself that dreams were luxuries she couldn't afford. How she had become invisible by choice. Near midnight, Anna found herself sitting on the edge of her bed, Robert's card in one hand and her phone in the other. Before she could change her mind, she dialed the number. It's Anna, she said when he answered, her voice surprisingly steady. The cleaning lady. About the concert, there was no going back now. The thought terrified and exhilarated her in equal measure. The next morning, Anna arrived at the concert hall an hour earlier than usual. Her conversation with Robert had ended with an agreement. She could practice on the grand piano before her cleaning shift began. This way, she could prepare for the concert without anyone watching. The building was eerily quiet as she made her way through the darkened lobby. Only the security guard, an older man named Frank who had worked there even longer than she had, was around to see her enter. You're early today, he commented, looking up from his crossword puzzle. Special project, Anna replied vaguely, clutching the small bag containing her sheet music to her chest. Frank nodded without asking questions. After 15 years, they had developed a comfortable understanding. Brief greetings, occasional comments about the weather, but never prying into each other's lives. The main hall was dim, with only the safety lights illuminating the stage. Anna moved slowly down the center aisle, her footsteps echoing in the empty space. She had cleaned this room thousands of times, but approaching it as a performer felt entirely different. The rows of seats now represented an audience, people who would listen, judge, and remember. Anna's heart pounded as she climbed the steps to the stage. The grand piano waited in the center, its lid closed. She had never opened it herself. That was always done by the stage technicians for performances or by the musicians during rehearsals. With cautious hands, she lifted the heavy lid and propped it open. Then she carefully uncovered the keys, running her finger lightly along them without pressing down. The ivory felt cool and smooth beneath her fingertips. She placed her worn sheet music on the stand, pages she had kept hidden in a box under her bed for decades, brought with her when she fled her home country. The paper was yellowed with age, the margins filled with notes in her native language written in a younger, more hopeful hand. Anna sat on the bench, adjusted its height, and positioned her hands. Then she took a deep breath and began to play. The first few notes were tentative, her fingers stiff and uncertain. It had been one thing to play spontaneously yesterday in a moment of unexpected emotion. It was another to play deliberately with intent and purpose. Her hands felt like they belonged to someone else. The cleaning lady's hands, not the pianist's. She stopped, frustrated with herself. "Come on," she whispered. "You know this piece." Anna closed her eyes, remembering her old teacher's words. "Don't just play the notes. Feel them in your soul first, then let them flow through your fingers." She began again, and this time something shifted. The music started to take shape, flowing more naturally with each measure. Her muscle memory awakened, 30 years of dust blowing away with each phrase. By the time she reached the middle section, Anna was no longer thinking about her hands or the keys. She was simply feeling the music, letting it carry her. When the final notes faded, she opened her eyes, slightly dazed. The empty hall seemed to hold the echoes of what she had just played, as if the very air was still vibrating with Chopin's Nocturne. "Beautiful." Anna jumped at the voice, nearly falling off the bench. Peter stood in the wings, watching her with an expression of quiet admiration. "I'm sorry," he said quickly, stepping onto the stage. "I didn't mean to startle you. I come in early to practice sometimes, and I heard someone playing." Anna's face burned with embarrassment. "I should have asked permission before using the piano." No, Peter said, coming closer. "Robert told me he invited you to perform. I think it's wonderful." Anna looked down at the keys, unable to meet his eyes. "I'm not sure I can do it. My playing is rusty." "That didn't sound rusty to me," Peter said, sitting beside her on the bench. "May I?" he asked, gesturing to the piano. Anna nodded and moved to stand, but Peter shook his head. "Stay. Play with me." Before she could protest, he began the opening of a familiar duet, a simple, playful piece she recognized from her student days. He looked at her expectantly, waiting for her to join. After a moment's hesitation, Anna placed her hands on the keys and began playing her part. The duet was easier than Chopin, designed for teaching cooperation between players. As they played together, Peter occasionally nodded encouragingly or smiled when they navigated a tricky section smoothly. When they finished, Peter turned to her. "See, the music is still in you." It never left. Anna felt tears threatening to form and blinked them back. "It's been so long." "Tell me," Peter said gently. "What happened? Why did you stop playing?" The question hung between them. Anna had avoided telling her story for so many years that speaking it aloud felt like a betrayal of the careful walls she had built around her past. But something about Peter's genuine interest broke through her defenses. "I was 21, she began quietly, studying at the conservatory in Bucharest. My professors said I had potential for an international career. I was preparing for a major competition when everything changed." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "It was 1989, the revolution came. My father was a journalist who had written articles critical of the government. When the fighting started, he was arrested. My mother and I were evicted from our apartment. The piano was seized along with everything else." Peter listened silently, his expression solemn. "My father died in prison," Anna continued, her voice steady despite the pain of the memory. "My mother and I fled the country with whatever we could carry. Music suddenly seemed unimportant, a luxury we couldn't afford." "I'm so sorry," Peter said softly. Anna shrugged. "We came here. My mother was sick by then. I needed work, not piano lessons. I took whatever jobs I could find to pay for her medications. After she passed, I just continued. The years went by, and that part of my life felt like a dream I once had. And now?" Peter asked. Anna looked at the piano, running her finger along a small scratch on the wooden edge. "Now I'm a 62-year-old cleaning lady who hasn't performed in public since she was 20. "The idea is ridiculous." "I don't think so," Peter said firmly. "Music doesn't care how old you are or what you do for a living. It only cares that you feel it and share it." Anna gave him a skeptical look. "The audience might feel differently." "Give them a chance," Peter suggested. "People might surprise you." Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of the hall doors opening. The first musicians were arriving for morning rehearsal. Anna quickly gathered her sheet music, suddenly self-conscious about being seen at the piano again. "I need to start my work," she said, standing up. "Wait," Peter said, reaching for something in his bag. "I brought you this." He handed her a CD. "It's a recording of my interpretation of the Nocturne. I thought it might help with your practice." Anna took the disc, touched by the gesture. Thank you. And one more thing, Peter added. Robert mentioned you might need appropriate concert attire. My sister works in the costume department at the opera. She could help you find something. Anna hadn't even thought about what she would wear. The practical concerns of performing were beginning to pile up, making the whole idea seem even more daunting. I don't know if I can accept so much help, she said hesitantly. Why not? Peter asked simply. Musicians help each other. That's what we do, musicians. He had included her in that category so naturally, as if she had never left it. As if the cleaning cart waiting for her in the supply closet didn't define who she was. I'll think about it, Anna promised. Over the next few days, Anna developed a new routine. She arrived early to practice, sometimes joined by Peter, who offered gentle suggestions or simply listened appreciatively. During her shift, she cleaned as efficiently as possible, then returned to the piano during her lunch break. In the evenings, she practiced on an imaginary keyboard at her kitchen table, the notes playing in her mind as her fingers moved through the familiar patterns. Word about her performance had spread throughout the concert hall staff. The stage technicians nodded respectfully when they saw her now. The administrative assistant smiled and asked how her practicing was going. Even the other cleaning staff treated her differently, with a curious mix of pride and awe, as if her talent somehow elevated all of them. Anna found herself caught between two worlds, the familiar comfort of her invisible routine and the terrifying exhilaration of being seen, truly seen for the first time in decades. 3 days before the concert, Robert asked her to play the piece with the orchestra during rehearsal. Anna's hands trembled so badly she could barely turn the pages of her music. Don't worry about us, the concertmaster told her kindly before they began. Just play the way you did when you thought no one was listening. When the conductor raised his baton, Anna took a deep breath and placed her hands on the keys. The moment the orchestra began, something magical happened. The sound of the strings surrounding her felt like being carried on a wave. Her nervousness faded as the music took over, and her fingers found their way through the piece with newfound confidence. At the end, the orchestra members tapped their bows against their stands, their traditional way of showing appreciation. Anna felt a strange warmth spreading through her chest. It was a feeling she had almost forgotten. Pride. As she gathered her things to return to her cleaning duties, Robert approached her. The concert is sold out, he said. And after hearing you today, I understand why. Anna looked up in surprise. Sold out? How would people even know about me? Robert looked slightly uncomfortable. Well, someone posted a video of your first day at the piano. It's gotten quite a lot of views. A video? Anna felt the blood drain from her face. Of me? One of the violin players recorded it on his phone. He was so amazed by what happened, he shared it online. It's gone. What do they call it? Viral. Anna clutched her sheet music tightly, her mind racing. People had seen her. Not just the orchestra members, but strangers. Possibly thousands of them. People were buying tickets because of a video she hadn't even known existed. I need to see it, she said firmly. Robert nodded, pulling out his phone. Of course. I should have shown you sooner. As the video played, Anna watched herself transform from the hesitant cleaning lady to the confident pianist in the span of minutes. The comments below the video were filled with words like incredible, inspiring, and magical. People are moved by your story, Robert said gently. But they're coming for your music. Anna handed the phone back, her thoughts in turmoil. The concert was no longer a small personal step back into music. It had become something bigger, something with expectations attached. People would be watching, waiting, judging. I don't know if I can do this, she whispered. You can, Robert assured her. But the choice is still yours. No one will force you to play. Anna nodded, though she wasn't sure anymore if she truly had a choice. The music had already claimed her, pulling her back into its world whether she was ready or not. The night before the concert, Anna couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing with 1,000 worries. What if she forgot the music? What if her hands froze? What if people laughed when they saw the cleaning lady trying to be a concert pianist? At 3 a.m, she got up and sat at her kitchen table, spreading out her sheet music, though she hardly needed it anymore. The notes were etched in her memory, in her fingers, in her heart. She had practiced every spare moment of the past week, to the point where her fingertips felt tender and her wrists ached. Anna made herself a cup of tea and looked around her small apartment. It was a simple place, clean and tidy, but with few personal touches. No photos on the walls, no mementos on the shelves, nothing that told the story of who she had been before coming to this country, except for one thing. Anna went to her closet and pulled out a dusty box from the back corner. Inside, wrapped in a faded cloth, was a small wooden carving of a grand piano. Her father had given it to her when she was accepted to the conservatory. "So you never forget what you're working toward," he had said. For decades she had kept it hidden away, the sight of it too painful a reminder of dreams lost. Now Anna placed it carefully on her kitchen table, studying its delicate curves and tiny ivory-colored keys. "I wish you could see me tomorrow, Papa," she whispered. By dawn, exhaustion finally pulled her into a fitful sleep. When Anna arrived at the concert hall for her final rehearsal, Peter was waiting by the stage door with a garment bag slung over his arm. "Good morning," he said cheerfully, though his smile faded when he saw her face. "You didn't sleep, it wasn't a question." Anna shrugged, not bothering to deny it. "That's normal before a big performance," Peter assured her. "Everyone gets nervous." "Is it still just nerves when you feel like you might throw up?" Anna asked with a weak smile. Peter laughed. "Absolutely. I still get physically sick before important concerts, and I've been doing this for 20 years. He held up the garment bag. "My sister sent this for you. Would you like to try it on?" Anna nodded gratefully and took the bag to the women's dressing room. Inside was a simple black dress with 3/4-length sleeves and a modest neckline. Classic and elegant, it was exactly the kind of thing she would have chosen for herself if she'd had the courage to go shopping. When she emerged from the dressing room, Peter was talking with Robert and the conductor. All three men turned to look at her, and their expressions made her cheeks grow warm. "Perfect," Robert said with an approving nod. "You look like a concert pianist," the conductor added. Anna smoothed her hands over the soft fabric. "It fits well. Please thank your sister for me." "You can thank her yourself," Peter said. "She's coming tonight. She wouldn't miss it for the world." The thought of people, strangers coming specifically to hear her play, was still overwhelming. Anna took a deep breath and changed the subject. "Should we rehearse one more time?" The final rehearsal went smoothly. Anna played with more confidence than she had all week, her hands steady and sure on the keys. The orchestra supported her beautifully, following her subtle shifts in tempo, matching her emotional interpretation of the piece. When they finished, the conductor looked pleased. "We're ready," he declared. "Now go home and rest before tonight." But Anna shook her head. "I still need to finish my cleaning schedule." Robert frowned. "Anna, you don't need to clean today. You're performing tonight." "My job is to clean," Anna said firmly. "The performance is extra. I won't leave my work undone." The men exchanged looks, but no one argued further. Anna changed back into her uniform and spent the next 4 hours going through her usual routine, vacuuming the lobby, wiping down handrails, dusting light fixtures. The familiar tasks calmed her nerves somewhat, giving her hands something to do besides shake. As she worked, various orchestra members and staff stopped to wish her luck. The older violist, who always left candy wrappers under his chair, told her he'd be playing his best for her tonight. The stern-faced flutist, who rarely spoke to anyone, said her mother was coming specifically to hear "The Pianist with the Amazing Story." By mid-afternoon, Anna had finished her duties. She clocked out, said goodbye to her supervisor, and headed home to prepare for the evening. Her apartment felt different somehow when she returned, as if it belonged to someone else. Anna showered and carefully styled her gray hair, pinning it up in a simple but elegant knot. She applied light makeup, something she rarely bothered with for work. When she put on the black dress again, she hardly recognized herself in the mirror. The woman looking back at her seemed like a stranger, or perhaps like someone she had known long ago and forgotten. Anna arrived at the concert hall 2 hours before the performance. The backstage area buzzed with activity, musicians warming up, stage technicians adjusting lights, ushers receiving last-minute instructions. No one seemed surprised to see her in concert attire rather than her cleaning uniform. They greeted her like any other performer, with nods of acknowledgement, and murmured, "Good lucks." Peter found her in a quiet corner where she was doing finger exercises on her knees. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Terrified," Anna admitted. "But also alive," Peter smiled. That's exactly how it should feel. He handed her a small package wrapped in tissue paper. This is from the orchestra, a small tradition we have for soloists. Anna unwrapped it carefully to find a beautiful silk scarf in deep blue with musical notes embroidered along the edges. It's lovely, she said, touched by the gesture. We thought you might want something to remember tonight by, Peter explained. No matter what happens next, this night is yours. A stagehand appeared at the door. 15 minutes to places everyone. Anna felt her heart jump into her throat. 15 minutes until she would walk onto that stage as a performer, not as the woman who polished the floor beneath the piano. Peter squeezed her shoulder gently. I need to get to my seat. I'll be watching from the front row. After he left, Anna stood alone in the small room trying to control her breathing. Through the walls, she could hear the murmur of the audience filing in, the occasional burst of laughter or greeting as people found their seats. A knock at the door made her jump. Robert entered, looking elegant in his tuxedo. It's time, he said. Are you ready? Anna thought about her journey, from the young conservatory student in Bucharest to the cleaning lady who had hidden her talent for decades, to this moment standing in concert attire about to perform Chopin. I'm ready, she said, and was surprised to find she meant it. Robert led her through the backstage area to the wings. The main hall was packed, every seat filled. Anna caught glimpses of well-dressed patrons, program books in hand, all waiting expectantly. The house lights dimmed, and the audience fell silent. The conductor walked onto the stage to polite applause, bowed, and then turned toward where Anna stood in the wings. He extended his hand in her direction. This was it. The moment she had both longed for and dreaded. Anna took a deep breath and stepped onto the stage. The applause that greeted her was surprisingly enthusiastic. People were standing, craning their necks to see her better. Many held up phones, recording her entrance. Anna felt dizzy with the unreality of it all. She walked to the piano with measured steps, the way she had been taught so many years ago. Chin up, back straight, eyes forward. When she reached the bench, she adjusted it carefully, then smoothed her dress and sat down. The hall grew completely silent. Anna could feel hundreds of eyes on her, waiting, wondering. She placed her hands on the keys and nodded to the conductor. With his first movement, the orchestra began the gentle introduction to the nocturne. Anna closed her eyes briefly, letting the music wash over her, finding her place within it. When it came time for her entrance, her fingers moved with certainty. The first notes she played seemed to float into the hall, clear and pure. As the piece progressed, Anna forgot about the audience, forgot about her nerves, forgot about everything except the conversation between her hands and the piano, between the piano and the orchestra, between all of them and Chopin's beautiful composition. Time seemed to slow down and speed up simultaneously. Anna felt both utterly present in each note and somehow outside herself, watching from a distance as her hands created something beautiful. When she reached the most difficult passage, a delicate run of notes that required perfect control, she navigated it with unexpected ease, as if her fingers had never forgotten, had just been waiting for this moment to remember. In the final measures of the piece, where the music grows quieter and more introspective, Anna felt tears forming behind her eyes. She blinked them back, focusing on bringing the nocturne to its gentle conclusion. The final note hung in the air for what felt like an eternity. Then the hall erupted. The applause was immediate and overwhelming. People were on their feet before Anna had even lifted her hands from the keys. She sat frozen for a moment, stunned by the response. The conductor extended his hand to her and Anna stood on shaky legs. He guided her to the front of the stage for a bow, then stepped back, leaving her alone in the spotlight, looking out at the sea of faces, some smiling, some wiping away tears. Anna felt something shift inside her. A wall that had stood for 30 years crumbled away completely. She was a pianist. She had always been a pianist. No matter how long she had spent hiding that truth, it had waited patiently for her to recognize it again. Anna took another bow, deeper this time, acknowledging not just the audience's appreciation, but also her own journey back to herself. As the applause continued, Robert appeared at her side with a microphone. The audience gradually quieted, curious to hear what would be said. Ladies and gentlemen, Robert began, what you just witnessed was more than a beautiful performance of Chopin. It was an extraordinary homecoming. He turned to Anna. Would you like to say a few words? Anna hesitated, then nodded and accepted the microphone. Her hands were still trembling, but her voice was steady when she spoke. "Music has been waiting for me all these years," she said simply. "Tonight I finally found the courage to answer." Anna's life changed dramatically in the weeks following her performance. The video of her playing at the community concert spread even more widely than the first one, reaching millions of views online. Local news stations ran stories about the cleaning lady pianist, focusing on her journey from the conservatory in Romania to the concert stage in her 60s. Her phone rang constantly with interview requests, performance invitations, and even a few recording offers. The attention was overwhelming for someone who had spent decades deliberately staying invisible. Through it all, Anna continued her cleaning job at the concert hall. Despite Robert's gentle suggestion that she might want to take some time off, Anna insisted on maintaining her routine. The familiar work grounded her as the rest of her world tilted on its axis. "I'm still the same person," she told Peter one morning as she dusted the piano he was about to practice on. "Just because I played one concert doesn't mean I should abandon my responsibilities." Peter watched her with a mixture of admiration and concern. "No one would think less of you if you took a break, you know. You've been through a lot." Anna straightened a stack of sheet music that had been left on top of the piano. "This job has been my life for 15 years. I'm not ready to let it go." What she didn't say was that cleaning the concert hall felt safe. It was predictable, straightforward. The recent attention made her feel exposed, vulnerable in a way she hadn't allowed herself to be since leaving her homeland. One afternoon, about a month after the concert, Robert found Anna polishing the brass handrails in the lobby. "Do you have a moment to talk?" he asked, his expression serious. Anna nodded, setting aside her cleaning supplies. They sat on a bench near the entrance, the late afternoon sun streaming through the high windows. "I've received an interesting proposal," Robert began. "The city's education department has approached us about starting a new program. Piano lessons for adults who never had the opportunity to learn, or who gave it up years ago." Anna listened, unsure where this was heading. "They want you to teach it," Robert said simply. Anna's eyes widened. "Me? But I'm not a teacher." "You could be," Robert replied. "You have the skill, the experience, and something most teachers don't have. You understand what it means to return to music after a long absence. Who better to guide others on that journey?" The idea was so unexpected that Anna didn't know how to respond. She had never considered teaching, even in her youth when she dreamed of a career in music. It had always been as a performer. "I don't know the first thing about teaching," she said hesitantly. "It would be one evening class per week to start," Robert explained. "We'd provide all the materials and support you need. The students would be beginners or people returning to piano after many years away, just like you." Anna thought about it. The idea of helping others find their way back to music held a certain appeal. Would I still keep my job here?" Robert smiled. "Of course, if that's what you want. Though we might need to adjust your hours a bit." He stood to leave, giving her time to consider. "You don't have to decide right away. Just think about it." That evening, Anna sat at her kitchen table, the wooden carving of the piano in front of her. Teaching had never been part of her plan. But then, neither had becoming a cleaning lady. Life had a way of taking unexpected turns. The next day, Anna arrived at work to find a surprise waiting for her. A small upright piano had been moved into one of the rehearsal rooms with a note taped to it in Peter's handwriting. "For practice. Yours whenever you need it." The gesture touched her deeply. During her lunch break, Anna slipped into the room and played for half an hour, losing herself in the music. When she emerged, she found Peter waiting in the hallway. "So what do you think about Robert's offer?" he asked. Anna hesitated, then admitted, "I'm scared. What if I'm a terrible teacher? What if I don't know how to explain things properly?" Peter leaned against the wall, considering her words. "You know, I was terrified when I taught my first master class. I kept thinking, who am I to tell these students how to play? What do I know that they couldn't learn from someone more qualified?" "What happened?" Anna asked. "I made mistakes. I fumbled for words. I probably gave some advice that wasn't very helpful," Peter said with a laugh. "But I also connected with those students. I shared what I knew, and they taught me things too." He looked at her seriously. "Teaching isn't about being perfect. It's about sharing your journey." Later that week, Anna agreed to teach the class. The program would start in a month, giving her time to prepare. Robert provided teaching materials and arranged for her to observe several lessons with experienced instructors. Anna threw herself into the preparation with the same dedication she had once applied to practicing Chopin. She read teaching manuals, made notes, and developed lesson plans. At night, she practiced explaining basic concepts as if talking to imaginary students. The day of her first class arrived all too quickly. Anna stood nervously in the community room of the concert hall, watching as her students filtered in. There were 12 of them, ranging in age from 30 to 75. Some looked excited, others appeared as nervous as she felt. Anna had dressed carefully for the occasion, not in her cleaner's uniform, but not in concert attire either. She had chosen simple black pants and a blue blouse with the silk scarf the orchestra had given her, tied loosely around her neck. "Good evening," she began, her voice shakier than she would have liked. "My name is Anna Popescu. I will be your piano teacher." The words felt strange in her mouth, yet somehow right. A gray-haired man in the front row raised his hand. "Are you really the cleaning lady from the video? The one who played Chopin?" Anna nodded, feeling her cheeks warm. "Yes, that was me. But before I was a cleaning lady, I was a piano student. And now I'm both a cleaner and a musician." She smiled. Life is rarely just one thing, isn't it? That simple truth seemed to resonate with the group. Several people nodded in understanding. "Today," Anna continued with more confidence, "we will begin at the beginning, with the language of music." As the weeks passed, Anna settled into her new role. Teaching came more naturally than she had expected. Her students responded to her patience, to her understanding of their struggles, to her genuine delight when they mastered even the simplest pieces. One evening, after her students had left, Anna remained at the piano, playing through some of the beginner pieces from the lesson. Peter appeared in the doorway. "How's it going?" he asked, though the smile on his face suggested he already knew the answer. "It's good," Anna replied, surprised by how much she meant it. "Different than I expected, but good." "Different how?" Anna considered the question. "I thought teaching would be about showing others what I know. But it's more about helping them discover what they already have inside them." She looked up at him. "Does that make sense?" Peter nodded. "The best teaching always works that way." He sat beside her on the bench. "I have some news. The orchestra is planning a special series of concerts next season. Second Chances. It will feature musicians who found their way back to music after time away." He gave her a meaningful look. "We'd like you to be part of it." Anna's first instinct was to refuse. One performance had been miraculous enough. Tempting fate with another seemed unwise. But something had shifted in her over these past months. The fear that had ruled so much of her life had loosened its grip. "What would I play?" she asked, surprising herself with the question. Peter's face lit up. "Whatever you want. A full concerto with the orchestra if you're up for it." The idea both terrified and thrilled her. "I would need to practice much more." "That's what the piano in the rehearsal room is for," Peter reminded her. "And I'd be happy to work with you." Anna ran her fingers lightly over the keys, not pressing them down, just feeling their smooth surface beneath her fingertips. "Let me think about it." That night, Anna dreamed of her father. They were walking together through the streets of Bucharest, past the conservatory where she had studied. "Are you happy with your music now?" he asked her. When she woke, Anna knew her answer to Peter's invitation. 6 months after her first performance, Anna found herself once again preparing to play with the orchestra. This time she had chosen a Mozart concerto, more challenging than the Chopin piece, requiring greater technical skill and endurance. The morning of the concert, Anna went to the concert hall early. Not to practice, but to clean. She moved through her familiar routine one last time, dusting and polishing the space where she would later perform. Her supervisor found her waxing the lobby floor. "You know you don't have to do this today," he said kindly. "You're the soloist." Anna smiled as she continued her work. "This building has been my home for 15 years. Caring for it is my way of saying thank you." When she finished her cleaning, Anna placed her uniform in her locker. She wouldn't be needing it anymore. After much thought, she had decided to accept a part-time position teaching 3 piano classes. She would still clean the building occasionally, but as a volunteer, not an employee. That evening, as Anna waited in the wings for her cue, she felt a strange sense of peace. The journey from cleaning lady to concert pianist wasn't a transformation after all, but a reconciliation. She hadn't become someone new. She had simply reclaimed all the parts of herself. When the conductor gestured for her to enter, Anna walked onto the stage with confidence. The audience, which included all 12 of her piano students, applauded warmly. Anna took her place at the piano, adjusted the bench, and nodded to the conductor. As the orchestra began the introduction, Anna thought about the unlikely path that had brought her to this moment. A casual joke from a kind pianist, a talent revealed after decades of silence, a choice to step out of the shadows and into the light. The music flowed from her fingers with joy and assurance. Anna played not just with technique, but with the wisdom of someone who understood that life's most beautiful melodies often come after its deepest silences. When the final notes of the concerto faded, Anna rose to acknowledge the applause. Among the standing audience, she spotted Frank, the security guard, her cleaning colleagues, Peter and Robert, and dozens of others who had been part of her journey. This time, when she bowed, Anna didn't feel like an imposter. She was exactly where she belonged, not despite the twists and turns of her life, but because of them. The cleaning lady and the pianist were one and the same. Both were essential parts of her story, the story of a woman who had found her way back to herself one note at a time.